Hey there, Investor Carrot. This is Aaron McManus. I'm the VP of Engagement here, and I wanted to tell you about a book that I read a while ago that really impacted my life and helped me start seeing things through the lens of engagement. And it's part of what led me into my role and why I'm here with you today. And I wanted to tell you about this book and about what engagement, in particular, what full engagement can do for your work and life, and why it matters so much to me, and why it's such a part of what we're helping you to create at Investor Carrot in a different way than just your marketing, but really, how you're engaging with your life and your sense of purpose, and why managing energy and not time is the key to high performance and personal renewal, which is obviously the slogan I'm reading right to you from the front of that book. And before I go any further, what do we mean when we say engagement? And what is engagement anyway? Because it's kind of tossed around a lot as a buzzword, and a lot of people might think that it doesn't mean much, or it's like some kind of hocus pocus. But it actually comes from the French. I'm going to kind of botch it. My accent isn't as great as it could be, but engagé, which means to pledge, and it also means to attract and to involve and to connect. And so if you're a business owner, which I know a lot of the people who are watching this own a business, engaging people with your business and involving them and connecting them is everything. It's what brings in revenue. It's what gets people to sign up as employees. It is like, kind of the key to, a transaction is kind of a limited way to look at it. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the very end of this, but from a transactional level, like why this matters, but from a really deep level, bringing people to your business who want to see you succeed, who are going to make your life easier, and attracting those right people. That's everything, and that's the key to having the right kind of business that you want to have, and having one that actually helps build your life and not just deplete it. So let's talk about full engagement, and what the heck is full engagement even mean anyway? What does it mean to fully engage with the world? And this is a screenshot, or actually this is just a photograph I took of the book itself, a page in this Power and Full Engagement book. And as you can kind of see, it's dividing the dynamics of energy into low energy and high energy, and then positive or pleasant energy, and then negative or unpleasant energy. And so when your energy is really low and very negative, you feel depressed and exhausted, burnt out, hopeless, defeated. I know I've certainly been there. I think it's part of being human. All this stuff happens at some point in our lives or another. On the other hand, you can have low energy and be positive, which looks like relaxed and mellow and peaceful and tranquil and serene. But those are very low energy states, and they're not the same as the high positive, which we'll get to in a second. But there's also the high negative, which is where you've got a lot of energy, but it's a negative energy. And I know we've all known people, it's easier to point at other people and say, man, that's them. But the truth is that we've all been there too. Angry is a very high energy state and also very negative and destructive. So is fear and anxiety and defensiveness and even resentment. When we're envious of someone else's success, and we're driven by jealousy and fueled by intense but angry but negative emotions. And of course, on the flip side of that, as you've already had the chance to see, there's the high positive energy, which is invigorated, confident, challenged, full of joy, and really connected. And that's what we mean when we say fully engaged, is this like really tapped into the source of where your energy comes from. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But from a business level, to have the confidence to present yourself as a capable expert in your subject matter, and to feel invigorated to wake up every day and to show up at work, and to feel invigorated at home to show back up there too. At the end of your workday, to go back home with joy, to your family. That can be an area where you're really struggling in life, and where you might be, some people are really excited by work and they aren't as excited to come back home, or they maybe don't even want to get out of the house and they'd rather just stay home and they don't want to go to work. And neither one of those things are full engagement. It's where we're holding back in some aspect of our life. And I love this key point in this, that energy, not time, is the fundamental currency of high performance. And this matters so much because it's really about learning that we can control the energy that we possess and what we bring to things. And that's really what energy management is about. It's about bringing a different level of energy to your performance as a business owner. And so your ability to engage with something is really it's partly about time, but the fundamental currency is energy, and that means that if you can create a higher amount of energy in a positive way, if you can manage your energy well so that you're bringing joy and intensity and excitement and confidence to your work in full engagement, that's going to deliver insanely higher performance than any amount of low energy scheduling could ever bring you. And so being able to take control of your energy and accelerate being able to take control of your energy will accelerate the kind of performance that you can deliver and the results that you'll get, not just out of your business, but also out of life. Because it's really about this fundamental shift, and full engagement requires a fundamental shift in how we live our lives, in the way that we're doing things, not just what we're doing or how we're thinking about it, but that we're really preparing for what they call it. They talk about the corporate athlete program that they've developed, and they kind of define in that book. And obviously, I encourage you to read it. It's very rich and full of information, very well researched, and lots of interesting data that they point to within the book. But it really talks about fundamentally shifting the way that you manage your cycle, more like an athlete who practices with great intensity, but then takes time to rest, renew, and recover. And in the workplace, we're expected to be engaged all the time, instead of taking breaks and going back to it with passion and intensity after the chance to renew. And more workplaces, of course, are shifting since this book was published in 2003, and I think just in the past decade plus, seeing a fundamental shift take place in workplaces, where we're seeing more places that have ping pong tables and nap rooms and other ways that people can engage and renew again with a different side of themselves, so that they're looking not only at the mental tasks of work or the physical tasks of work, but the balance between the two, and the need for spiritual purpose and emotional satisfaction as all key components of that. And we'll get to that more in a second. But performance, health, and happiness are grounded in the skillful management of energy. And that's just mind-blowing. And I kind of have to take a moment again to look at that and say, wow, so health, happiness, and performance they're grounded in the skillful management of energy. And that's something that I found really true in my life, that when I'm healthiest and happiest and performing at my best is when I'm managing my energy well. It's usually when I've got those different sides of my being nurtured, the spiritual, the physical, the mental, and the emotional. And that's when I'm going to perform at my peak. And so here's the secret, though. Full engagement requires lots of energy. And so we have to take a step back and say, well, wait, I can create that energy for myself, and what's going to bring me a lot of energy. And their system is approached from in this diagram, the top down. The change begins with the spiritual, from a connection to the deep purpose. And this is, I'm going to talk about this more in a minute, and kind of leave you with a few big questions at the end of this that will kind of help ground in what that's what I mean when I say the spiritual thing, because I don't mean any particular spiritual path or any. I'm not trying to bring you to any kind of religion here. It's really just about a fundamental connection to purpose and why you're here, and that's got a different meaning for everybody. But it's something beyond the physical. Which is like metaphysical. It's beyond physical. It's more than just the physical. It's this like big sense of legacy, and the fact that we're really recognizing that we're going to die, and the death is the natural end of life. So what do you want to do when you're here? And that changes things, because there is a really different urgency when we recognize that life is not just a drudgery in a cubicle. and that there's a big question of what can we do with the limited time that we have here. And before I go too deep, I just want to, the bottom there is worth noting. High positive energy is the fuel for high performance, and that comes from a sense of opportunity, adventure, and challenge. Like how you approach life. Do you find opportunity and adventure and challenge in what you're taking on? Or is it more about the threats and the danger and fears that you might not survive? Because that'll lead to like an avoidance. It's less of an engagement. You're trying to retract. You're trying to build a wall around you. You're not engaging with the world because you're afraid of putting yourself out there, a fear of what might happen. And at some level, I think there's truth to the idea that we can be afraid of success and not wanting to see ourselves succeed because of some deep down fear that we have within us. And maybe in my case it's from my childhood. Maybe that's true for you. Get to that later on, or worry about that later. This is an interesting chart, and maybe just pause the video right now and take a time to connect with everything that's said on here, because it's a lot. But I just want to point out some cool work they do in this book to connect along the left there, these different ways that we kind of avoid engagement, like numbing out or multitasking and defensiveness and poor diet and a lack of exercise. What they do a great job with, and I love, is they describe that there's a benefit today in doing that. For example, anger and impatience is a way to discharge tension, and it prompts action. But if you look at the cost, it creates more anger, and then the long term, it's demotivating and antagonizing to others. It undermines close health relationships, and it increases the health risks. It costs you health to hold on to anger. And that's a great point for all of us, I think, as to why a positive attitude is necessary. Along the same lines, like poor work-life balance will have health consequences. A poor diet that's high in fat and high in sugar. I think, well, I'm going to agree with the sugar one. The fat, I think it's about the right kinds of fats, but that's a different point for a different day. Either way, the idea is about, what you put in your body, what you create in your life, what you take in has, of course, short and long-term consequences and costs. And there's a lot of benefits to managing your life in a way that creates high energy, and there's definitely areas in here where I know I can improve, and that's kind of the level to take it on. This isn't a criticism. This is about a chance to confront reality here and say, are there barriers? Are there things on this page that I'm doing? Is there stuff that's holding me back? And how could I make some small changes that might improve my results? And I want to take you through a couple, like I said, exercises to help connect with where this needs to start, but this is really a good illustration of, and again, just a picture I shot with my phone, so I apologize for the quality of it, but it's in the book. I encourage you to go buy it. These supportive habits and skills at the bottom, the small muscles, this is just stuff that's the basics, like sleep, exercise, diet, hydration on the physical side. That stuff's key to your mental health and well-being. And if you haven't slept, if your body is stagnant and you're eating bad stuff and you're dehydrated, which it's an astonishingly high percentage of folks exist in that negative physical state, you can't really get to the highest levels of energy in life. You just can't. It's a barrier. It's a physical limitation on your body. And so you need that performance level. And at the same thing, emotionally, without patience, openness, trust, and a sense of joy, you're not really able to get into the next level of things. And mental, the ability to talk to yourself and visualize your outcomes and create a positive attitude and mentally prepare yourself for the tasks at hand. These are like the really basic habits. And when I say small muscles, I think what's important to realize too is that the small muscle isn't necessarily the importance of it. It's just more the basic level of it, that if we don't do these things, if we don't have time in our spiritual lives and cultivate that honesty and integrity and courage and persistence that comes from the workouts of on a spiritual level, it's harder to get into some of the mostly like the sense of spiritual alignment that comes at the top there of full engagement. begins at the basic level. And then it kind of builds towards that big muscle level. I'm not going to spend too much time kind of going through all this stuff here because you can see it. But, on an emotional level, self-confidence, self-regulation, and empathy, really caring about other people, and the mental level, like focus and creativity and time management, these are hard skills to gain. And without those like beginning level skills of honesty and integrity and courage, it's harder to get really into a full sense of developing your character and your passions and your commitments to your passions, because it's about, and focus requires commitment and integrity, a sense of integrity to yourself, that you make promises and you keep them, and that sense of service to others, and what are we here to give is a so much more of a powerful question than what are we here to get, because we often find that when we give and give and give, we find out that we actually have deeper resources than we ever thought true. We have more. There's more to us than we can. When we challenge ourselves, we find out that we're much more than we ever thought that we were. When perhaps we were allowing ourselves to be held back by the limitations that we've talked ourselves into. And that's part of transforming negative self-talk into positive self-talk is unlocking, some of those limitations, and it comes back to, in that middle level, energy management, the quantity, quality, focus, and force of energy that is available to perform in the storm. And I like that little phrase there, perform in the storm, because that's really something powerful that we can do, is keep going despite all obstacles that nature throws at us, and the energy that we have to bring comes from that managing capacity and how we build the time into our lives. And this book talks a lot about ritual and building habits of good energy management that allow us to manage all these areas in our lives without becoming overwhelmed and without becoming dragged down, but in a positive and joyful way, because it's our benefit. We're here to create something. We have a purpose. And so that's the place to start, is really that sense of purpose, and what are we here to build, and what are we here to give, and what are we here to bring to the world and to the time that we have in it. And for me, I love using that word legacy to think about that. Like, what do I want to leave behind me? What's the legacy that I'm here to give, to my family, to my friends, to those whom I love, but also to the world at large? How do I want to make an impact, and how do I want to, I've got a pebble to throw into a pond and make ripples, or I can, try to make a boulder and a catapult and really launch that thing, to make a huge splash. And so it's a question of what you want to build and what's your legacy. And a lot of us who work hard to build a business are doing it because we have a legacy, to give. And so this exercise is about kind of crafting out the center of that legacy. Like, what's the purpose? And this was an exercise I really loved going through. Trevor took the rest of us at Investor Carrot, I should say the rest of us, but took all of us at Investor Carrot through this exercise on a little mini retreat we did the other day in the office, and it was really helpful. So you're going to write down the answers to 3 questions in this exercise, and get a piece of paper and a pen, or maybe just open up a new document, or even a new email and send an email to yourself. It can be a really good tool. Just to maybe even trigger a reminder in your calendar, and take a look at this again in 6 months and see where you're at and how things have changed. But the point is, though, to write down the answers to these 3 questions as a place to start. And the first question is really a difficult one, but what would you do if you had 6 months to live? And how would you spend that time? And for most of us, well, I don't want to inform your answers here, but so maybe, just press pause in this thing, or take a moment and write down, how you would spend your time, whether that's with your family and friends, or traveling, or, seeing some sights that you've never seen before, or, just some dreams you've had of maybe skydiving, or getting to see certain concerts, or that's the point of like that Make-A-Wish Foundation is just making that wish come true, so that you've had that thing in your life that means so much to you. So go ahead and put pause on this, and we'll continue in just a second. Um, Now that you've had a chance to write these down, what would you do if you only had 6 weeks to live? And there's probably a lot of this stuff is already on the list that you just made, and that's obviously got a different sense of urgency. Thinking about limiting it only to 6 weeks, and even more so, what if it was only 6 days? But that same sense of the limitations of time, there's going to be things that matter, less, and there's going to be things that matter more. And it's a good exercise just to write down and take the time and just a few minutes and push pause again and write down what you would do if you only had 6 weeks to live. And I'm going to go ahead and progress here. Now, the third list, and this is a different area to focus on. What if you had 6 years to live? And what's interesting about that is that, and please take the time to write these things down and make these lists. And it's easy just to watch the video and not bother to do the exercise, but go ahead and push pause if you haven't already, and make a list of what you would do if you only had 6 years to live. And now that you've had a chance to unpause the video and start up again, did it change anything? Did you see the things that you could build with 6 years? Was there anything that emerged on that list for you that seems like your legacy or what you want to do? And is it different than what you'd be doing today? Because I think that's one of the big questions that we have to ask ourselves when really diving deep on this stuff is are we doing what matters most to us with our time? And are we building the things that will serve our legacy beyond us? And how will our legacy be served by what we're doing today? And so I guess this is all to say that and I guess here's a chance if you feel like you've gotten enough from this video, drop off now, because I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this connects with particularly like a real estate investment business. We want to help you build a business that funds your life and not something that controls it. And that's a key distinction, I think, for a lot of us, because we might have been used to chasing things down and getting caught up in the rat race, and that's easy to do. But it's a little bit harder to build something with purpose, and maybe not harder, but I think the challenge is greater. But the reward is too. So this is our goal: is to help you find a way to create a business that serves you and not the other way around. And from an engagement perspective, and just kind of back to that way that I came up with this title of VP of Engagement and why I want to own that on behalf of our investor clients. It's really about switching that lens from just being a transaction, because there on the transactional side, it's important to do these pieces as well. We build traffic, and traffic converts into leads, and those people make a purchase. And we do this for our investor carrot business, and we help real estate investors build transactions in their business. But on the engagement side, it's really about like a sense of discovery, and that's like knowledge and curiosity, because a lot of our customers come to us because they're trying to learn something or they're trying to build something, and then they find we're credible and we're trustworthy by through that process of engaging with what we've built and what we've put out on the internet. And then that forms a relationship, and then that relationship is much more meaningful because we get a chance to provide tools that people use to change their lives, and that of course creates more credibility and trust, and it gives me a chance to bring you guys information like this that's a little bit different than just strictly traffic and conversions and leads. But both are important and both matter. It's kind of two sides to that same coin. And our focus is really on helping you to boost your business in kind of a different way, like I was telling you. So here's a little bit about me and my background. I'm not going to go too much into it, except to say that my focus is helping investors get a huge return on investment by engaging with their audiences via Investor Carrot's SEO and pay-per-click programs. So, those tend to be, probably around $1,000 a month. Some of them are a little bit less, some of them are more. It's probably a good average way to think about it. It's a small investment for the return that it delivers, but it's a good investment in a long-term business because both SEO and pay-per-click can be pretty hands-off and freeing. It's really a wonderful source of business when people are finding you and sending, and excited to do business with you, and really who want to engage with you rather than just trying to cold call people from a list, for example, and chasing them down. So anyway, those are kind of a little bit more background about what we're up to and why we're doing what we're doing. I hope it helped. I hope you get a chance to go check this out and see what the power of full engagement can do for you, and hopefully it helped you understand a little bit more about why it matters to your work and life. So thanks so much for tuning in, and if there's any way I can help you, please don't hesitate to let us know. Support@oncarrot.com is the best way to get a hold of us. Thanks so much.